Hey guys! Today's video is going to be 6 different methods to spruce up little terracotta planters. I think these are perfect for gifts. Little pots like this are like $2, and I mean, who doesn't love a little miniature planters like this? I don't know. I feel like we all love them. Do you? I will have timestamps down below if you want to skip around to different sections of the video. Check down there. And please let me know in the comments which one is your favorite, or if you plan to try any of these methods. I would love to see them if you do. I want to mention that you can use whatever you have around the house already. Me personally, I have so much nail polish laying around my house that I'll probably never use, so I like to use them for planters. It lasts a long time, it doesn't chip, it works really well, and I'm comfortable painting with it. But if you have like acrylic paint or something like that on hand, go ahead and use that. Just make sure you give them a quick clear coat once you finish your artwork, otherwise it's just gonna fade off over time. Okay. Let's get into it. Method number 1 is water marbling, which for anybody who was into nail art in like 2012, you probably recognize this. So how you do this, you need a bowl of room temperature water, some nail polish, and a toothpick. Make sure you're using new nail polish. Anything goopy isn't really gonna work, so it won't spread the way it's supposed to. Open up all of your lids so that you can move really quickly, and one by one go down the line of your colors and add a drop of each color into the room temperature water. It's going to like spread out. If it doesn't spread out, the water isn't the right temperature. It needs to be pretty close to room temperature. So you're gonna go down the line and continue doing that a few rounds through all of your colors. You can use as many or as few as you want. Once your bullseye like closes in where it's not spreading anymore, you're gonna take a toothpick and drag from the outside of your bullseye to the center, work your way around your full bullseye. And then you're just gonna dip your planter in. Once you've dipped, don't pull the planter out right away. You wanna give the nail polish left in the water some time to dry so that you can easily just clean it up with a toothpick. If you pull it out too fast, then it's going to get pretty messy. So just give it some time to dry, blow on it a little bit, and then clean it up with the toothpick before you remove your planter. If you're able to, it looks a lot better if you can make your bullseye big enough that you can completely submerge your entire planter and coat your planter in one bullseye. But I didn't think to do that at first, so I ended up doing mine in 2 rounds where I dipped one side first, made another bullseye, after that first side had dried, and then dipped the second side. I think it looks really cool, and you could really customize it. You could drag the toothpick different ways to make a lot of different patterns, but it's just a really colorful, fun, crazy planter. And yeah, you don't have to seal it or anything. It'll just stay on as is. All right, this is a like bedazzled. I think it's really cute. What you will need for this one is E6000 glue with a toothpick. Just add a little dot to wherever you want to add a gemstone. I chose to go for a kind of sunflowery look. I placed these little flat back pearls sporadically across the entire planter, and then dotted E6000 around each of those pearls so that I could add these little teardrop shaped gemstones, and we ended up with these little flowers. And I think this one's cute. It looks pretty cute from far away, but then when you get up close and see that they're little gemstones and it's like sparkly, it looks even better. So I really like this one. Again, you could do whatever design you want to. You could bedazzle the entire planter. I think that would look really cool. Time consuming, but cool. The flowers are a very quick design that I think looks really nice. Do you want to go color? Should I get you the markers? No? Are you feeling a little tired?
I'm fine.
Would you like some chocolate milk and you can lay on the couch?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. The next ones are my favorite of an actual process because I feel like they're a lot more creative and you really can switch it up to what you want, but I like to paint little flowers all over them. Again, I use nail polish for this, and you can make these as simple or as intricate as you really want. So on the more simple end, we have little basic dotted flowers. For this one, you can use a toothpick. Using a nail file, kind of file the sharp tip off of the toothpick so you get more of a flat, rounded shape. It's kind of a round stamp, and you're gonna make a few drops of whatever nail polish colors you want to use onto a piece of tin foil, dot the toothpick into it, and then for this flower one, I like to place 5 or 6 dots in a circle. just randomly all over the planter. And then with a second shade, I'll add a larger dot to each cluster of dots. And then with a third color, place a slightly smaller dot into that larger dot. On this one, I only did the one color flower just really randomly all over the whole thing, which is cute. You could of course fill up the entire thing, but using that little bit more simple and easy to do flower, you can still make a lot of really cool designs. So I love this one. I think this one turned out so cute, but it was really, really simple and easy to do because it is just placing dots. If you can place a dot, you can do this one. So I used a lot of different colored flowers and just went one by one, added a kind of wavy line around the entire circumference. Is that the math term? It's been a while since I was in school. So yeah, it's just like a wave of florals, which is so pretty. I used a lot of different colors and added a single dot into the center of each of the flowers. So this one was like a little bit time consuming. I think it took me like 40 minutes total, but I know my friends would love this. My family would love this. Coworkers would love this. If you want to do a little bit of a DIY gift, which is pretty inexpensive. This one turned out really, really cute. And I mean, obviously you can do whatever your brain can think of. This is just what my brain could think of. And then of course we have some more intricate options. So for this one, these are more detailed of flowers, but still very easy. So for this one, you can take the actual nail polish brush and kind of dab it into little clustered shapes where they almost meet in the middle. I lightly placed the brush down, gave it a little bit of pressure, and then let up on the pressure to pull it toward the center of each of the flowers to give them a like kind of triangular shape. Once that dried, I added a large dot of yellow into the center of each of those little petals, flower petals we made earlier. And when that dried, I went in with a third darker color and added little tiny dots with the toothpick from before, or you could use a dotting tool, the tip of a pencil, really whatever pointy little small thing you have on hand. Dotted it into that darker color and then added small little dots overlapping that center color with the petals to make it look a little bit more detailed with fairly minimal effort. And then just to fill it in a little more and give kind of a leaf look, I very messily just dotted a bunch of green to fill in some of the spaces between the flowers. And those are supposed to be like leaves, although I mean they don't look anything like leaves, but it gives the impression of leaves. It lets our imagination draw that conclusion. We're gonna do my favorite one next. If you've been watching my channel for a while or any of my other planter DIY videos, you probably already know how much I love making planters out of polymer clay. I love polymer clay. It's a lot of fun to work with, but it can get a little bit expensive, especially if you, like this is one that I made last year, which I already have a full and complete tutorial for this. So if you like the look of this, I will have that tutorial linked in the description. I go step by step and show you how I make each of these individual little types of flowers and then attach them onto this planter base, which I also built. It's a complete from start to finish tutorial. So I show you step by step how I accomplished this. If you're interested, I know it looks like it requires a lot of talent or knowledge of polymer clay, but I promise it doesn't. If you like the look of this, be sure to check out that video. If you want something with a similar look to this, but maybe a little bit more inexpensive or a little bit less time consuming, because this did take like 3 hours for me to do. A way you can get a pretty similar look on a budget and also on a time crunch is by just purchasing plain terracotta already made planters. I think these ones are really cute, and adding little designs to the outside. So for this one, I just made one larger like daisy flower and 2 smaller little rose flowers, and then added 5 leaves onto it to give it a really detailed, cool look. Now I'm gonna tell you how to make each of these flowers. For this daisy, you're going to need 5 balls of clay. You're gonna roll them with the tip of your finger into little rough teardrop shapes, and then kind of smash them down flat. I have these little silicone tools I really like to use, and I use for pretty much all of my polymer planter DIYs. So if you're gonna pick up any tools for this, I think it should be that set. I'll have them linked down below. You could also use a toothpick, a fork, a knife, just whatever you have on hand and kind of wing it. But I like to add a little bit of texture by lightly pressing onto the tips of each of the petals. It's a really easy way to add super detailed looking texture that requires honestly not a lot of skill at all, or any skill at all. It's just so I add a little clay wormy onto the tip of an orange wood stick or a toothpick or pencil, whatever you have. Again, just use whatever you have on hand. Then I pick each petal up with my X-Acto knife, kind of roll it so that the smaller end is like bent together. And then I'll press each of the petals onto the clay wormy, kind of pinching the base of it together with the center so that everything attaches itself. Then using a toothpick or needle, add little dots into the center of the flower, to give it detail, but then to also help hold all of the petals together, and cut the bottom to be flat with my X-Acto knife and set it aside. That's the daisy flower, super, super easy. So for the roses, I roll out like 7 to 9 little balls of clay, and then one really small ball of clay that I'll roll into a wormy. I'll press all of these flat. The wormy one ends up with this kind of shape, like an oval, a long oval, and the rest of them are pretty rough circle shapes. But again, using that same easy, just kind of like press on the ends to make detail strategy, tactic. I'll do that to one side to each of the shapes we've pressed out. These are going to be individual petals, if that helps you imagine it. So just do it kind of on one side of them. And then for the long piece, that's going to be the very center of our rose. So with my finger, I'll just gently roll it up on one end, roll it all the way across, and we end up with kind of a little swirl thing, which is the center of our rose. And then we'll go in one by one, picked them up, lightly pressed the side without the details together a little bit, and then smushed them petal by petal along the outside of our center rose swirl. Half of the balls I make a little bit smaller, and they'll be more toward the center of the rose. And then the last 3 or 4 clay balls I try to make a little bit bigger because it's easier to place that way. They're just easier to place that way and look nice. They're of a little bit different sizes. So go in from smallest to largest when you're pinching those petals onto the rose. And yeah, you'll just kind of layer them around each other until you've used all your balls. Kind of pinch it together underneath and cut it flat with your X-Acto knife. And then to make the leaves, it's a pretty similar process to how we made our petals of the daisy, except I kind of shape them a lot more roughly. I'll kind of press the fatter end out so that it has more of a leaf shape, so that it gets a little bit smaller, how leaves do, a little bit pointy. So that's where I'll add in the texture. I don't do it as uniformly though. I'll just kind of press around just so that they look different from each other, and you can like clearly tell these are petals of the flower, these are the leaves around the flowers. Once I have all of my shapes done, I'll start to add them to the planter. You can go ahead and bake them beforehand at this point. You bake them at 275 for 15 minutes per 1/4 inch thickness of your clay. So I did mine for 20 minutes just to be safe, but you could bake them that way and then glue them on with like E6000. You could use that if you want to, but I personally like to use the bakeable polymer adhesive. I just know for 100% it's going to stay on. I've had plants potted into my planters like this for a year now, and haven't had any issues with that coming off. I'll add it directly onto the planter and then press the individual pieces onto the glue and add them one by one. The leaves, I'll kind of toggle them, like I'll fold them a little bit and like drag them through the glue, and then shimmy them, wedge them underneath the flowers so everything looks really nicely layered. And a little tip for baking this one, instead of sitting it like this where things tend to run down, like the bakeable adhesive especially runs a little bit, to help hold it like this, I put my planter on some tin foil and then kind of scrunched up the edges to like kind of nest it in place so it wouldn't roll around and everything would sit how I set it. I have had it happen where I've like glued my pieces on, put it in the oven, it looks fine. And then when I pull it out of the oven before the glue baked, things had fallen off or like run down. So they weren't placed where they needed to be placed and it just didn't look nice. So just a little tip for baking it, but I think this looks really good. I think this one might be my favorite. Sky's the limit. If you don't have any terracotta planters on hand, you can of course make your own polymer clay planters, which is really fun. Also, you could make a planter and paint it with the nail polish, decorate it how you want with the nail polish. I would say the hardest thing about making a planter out of polymer clay is keeping the clay looking clean, because like lint, dust, hairs, everything for some reason just is so attracted to the polymer and wants to stick in it. Here is one that I made to show you. Of course, there's a lot of different ways you could do this, but to help with the lint issue so we don't have to worry about it as much, I like to make my polymer clay planters very textured so that it helps hide any imperfections in the clay itself. So to make this one, I start with a ball of clay, and then using my roller, I just pressed it into the ball of clay. And just kind of rolled it, kept rolling it around itself until I ended up with a shaped planter that I liked. I also cut it so that the edge would be even, and then just kind of kept rolling it, messing with it until I ended up with this shape. Yeah, it looks okay at that point. Like I totally could have baked it at that point and put a plant in it, but to spruce it up a little bit, take it another step, I took an old bracelet I have and pressed it repeatedly into the clay to give it a cool texture like this. I think it looks really cool. Even if there's lint in here, dog hairs in here, you wouldn't be able to tell. Oh, I forgot, I also made a little hole into the base of the planter for drainage. Duh. Forgot to mention that. But I also wanted to add legs, so I just rolled a long wormy, cut it into 3 pieces, and glued those pieces with the bakeable adhesive onto the bottom of the planter. And when I baked this one, I baked it upside down on a piece of tin foil for, again, the 275 for 20 minutes, and we ended up with this cute little planter. So those are all the little decorating ideas I had for today. I hope you liked them, and again, please let me know which one was your favorite. I think that these two are my favorites. Actually, I think I might just really like the shape of these planters. If you liked this one, the tutorial is down in the description and pinned to the top of the comments. It'll be there for you. I hope it helps you out to create a planter you love for yourself or as a gift to a loved one. I think it's so fun to give little basic things like terracotta or, I don't know, just simple planters their own unique little touch. Oh my gosh, like especially this one. I'm so excited to plant something in this one. Maybe we'll do it in a video together. Should we? Yeah. I'll definitely be making more of these though, so if you want one of these but you maybe don't want to put in the time to make it yourself, I do think I'm going to list them all on my website, which is thefoliagefix.com. But yeah, that's it for this video. I hope it was helpful for you, and especially maybe inspiring you to add a little personal touch to plant gifts. So I hope you liked this. That's it for this one. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next one. Bye!